A split in Europe that could change the course of peace talks. Slovakia and Hungary, they have both shot down the European Union's 20th anti-Russia sanctions package. It comes as the two nations, they are demanding their energy security needs be respected, demanding Ukraine turn the pipes back on to let Russian energy flow.
Ukraine has an obligation to transport this oil, and therefore, since all the information we have indicates that this pipeline is not breached or damaged and is capable of transporting oil, I consider the Ukrainian president's actions to be hostile towards the Slovak Republic. Not to mention that we had to declare a state of oil emergency at the government level and are already drawing oil from the state material reserves.
Now, according to Robert Fico, Ukraine has delayed reopening the pipeline multiple times since the end of last month. Kyiv claimed Russian drone strikes had hit infrastructure but presented no evidence. Without the supplies from Russia, Slovakia has declared an energy state of emergency, accusing Kyiv of political blackmail. And RT contributor Rachel Marston reports on this particular standoff.
The Druzhba, or friendship pipeline, is really living up to its name right now. All the friends are fighting with each other. And now Hungary, worried about the EU's slack attitude about what actually happens to that pipeline, is saying, hey, it's time to deploy the army to protect it.
The Defense Council meeting that I called because of the oil blockade in Ukraine just ended. Oil has not arrived in Hungary since January 27th. It is clear from the data that the reason for the oil blockades to Hungary and Slovakia is not technical, but political. I listened to the reports of the National Security Services, and I see that Ukraine is preparing for further actions in order to disturb the functioning of the Hungarian energy system.
Okay, so of course Orbán critics are saying, oh, he's deploying troops inside Hungary because he's down in the polls ahead of the April national elections, and he's going to try some kind of autocratic jujitsu to cancel them, which totally ignores the fact that Ukrainian secret services are actively attacking the pipeline, and there isn't something really fishy about the EU's permissiveness around it. Everyone from Kiev Independent to French state media France 24 has been attributing to the SBU Kiev Secret Services drone strikes that took place on February 23rd, targeting a Russian oil pumping station serving Druzhba, and they've been citing actual SBU sources for that information. And the EU's position has been, hey, look, it's up to Ukraine if they want to fix it. So Hungary's been saying, hey, you jokers, are you going to actually do something about all of this? Because we're putting our foot down on your whole cash for Ukraine, for European defense contractors charade, and unilaterally canceling the next episode of your Russian sanctions unity show with a veto until you reel in your spoiled brat foster kid.
Even one victor can think about how to grow his belly, not how to grow his army to stop Russian tanks from returning to the streets of Budapest.
Ukraine has clearly been reaching for the energy weapon for political reasons, interfering in the ongoing Hungarian elections.
A country that has received, incidentally, not only weapons and soldiers, but also humanitarian aid during the war, cannot undertake unacceptable and intolerable actions against a European Union member state.
We have determined that we will not resume diesel shipments from Hungary to Ukraine until we receive oil shipments from Ukraine. Finally, we also decided the military loan previously approved in Brussels, which has not yet been transferred and requires Hungary's approval and consent for transfer.
So there was just a meeting at the EU on Wednesday to work all of this out. And Brussels says to Ukraine, hey guys, let's just double down on those repairs, okay? Please? And Ukraine's like, okay, how about if we just double down on sitting here instead, Mom?
We have always supported friendship between Ukraine and Hungary, and now the existence of friendship depends on Hungary's position.
Okay, so like you're living in Mom's basement, she tells you you don't have a job, so how about maybe fixing some of that stuff you broke around the house? And Zelensky's like, no thanks, and just goes back to trolling Hungary pretty much full time. So she goes, all right, well, I tried. Which is quite a change of tone for Queen Ursula. Apparently, Ukraine put its official position in a letter to the EU that was basically like a bingo card for EU buzzwords, talking about the need for unity, non-discrimination, and cooperation, mostly though just when it comes to Ukraine. Then Kiev writes, quote, "We draw attention to the unacceptability of ultimatums and political pressure by certain member states. Not like we're looking at anyone," obviously referring to Hungary and Slovakia suspending diesel and electricity to Kiev as a result of all of this, as if Kiev has nothing at all to do with limiting Hungary's options here.